My wife's hand shook me awake at 5:30 in the morning. Her face was ghost white in the darkness, eyes red like she'd been crying for hours. "Brandon," she whispered, her voice cracking. "Don't look at your phone today, just give it to me, please." I'd been married to Jessica for 9 years. 9 years of Sunday morning pancakes and arguing about whether to paint the living room gray or beige. 9 years of her stealing my hoodies and me pretending to be annoyed. I knew her voice in every mood, angry, happy, tired, but I'd never heard this before. Terror. Pure, raw terror. "Jess, what are you talking about?" I mumbled, still half asleep. "It's not even 6 in the morning." She grabbed my wrist, her nails digging into my skin. "Brandon, I'm begging you, just trust me. Give me your phone and don't turn on your computer today. Don't check anything. Just one day. Please." The desperation in her voice woke me up faster than any alarm. I sat up, looking at my wife of 9 years like I was seeing a stranger. Her mascara from yesterday was smudged down her cheeks. She was wearing the same clothes she'd had on when I went to bed at 11. "Have you been awake all night?" She didn't answer, just kept staring at me with those terrified eyes. "Jessica, what the hell is going on?" "You're going to hate me by noon," she whispered. "But I'm asking you, please, don't look at your phone until then. Give me these few hours. Let me have these last few hours before everything falls apart." My heart started pounding. "What did you do?" She stood up from the bed, wrapping her arms around herself like she was trying to hold her body together. "Just promise me you won't look. Please, Brandon. Promise me." I should have grabbed my phone right then. Should have demanded answers. But there was something in her face that made me pause. She looked like she was standing on the edge of a cliff, one push away from falling. "Okay," I heard myself say. "I won't look until noon." The relief that flooded her face should have been my first real warning. She practically collapsed, her whole body sagging. "Thank you. Thank you. I'm so sorry, Brandon. I'm so sorry." Then she walked out of the bedroom, and I heard the front door close quietly behind her. I sat there in bed for 10 minutes, trying to process what just happened. My phone was charging on the nightstand, face down like always. All I had to do was pick it up. But I'd made a promise. And despite everything, despite the fear crawling up my spine, I'd never broken a promise to Jessica. Not once in 9 years. I got up, showered, made coffee. Went through my morning routine on autopilot. Kept glancing at my phone sitting on the kitchen counter. Unopened. Unknown. At 7:30, my best friend Tyler called on the landline we kept for emergencies. "Brandon," he said, his voice tight. "Have you seen your phone?" "No. Why?" Jesus Christ. He was quiet for a long moment. "Call me when you do. Just call me." He hung up before I could ask what he meant. At 8:15, my brother Aaron showed up at my door. He never visited before work. Never. "Hey," he said, standing on my porch looking uncomfortable. "You okay?" "Why does everyone keep asking me that?" "You haven't looked at your phone?" I shook my head. "Jessica asked me not to until noon." Aaron's face went dark. "That bitch." "Watch it," I said automatically, even though my stomach was churning. "Aaron, what's going on?" "Nothing," he said, backing away. "Just wanted to check on you. Call me later. Actually, come to my place tonight. Stay with me and Melissa. You shouldn't be alone." He left before I could respond. At 9:30, my mother called the landline. My mother, who never called before noon on a weekday because she was always at her yoga class. "Brandon, honey," she said, her voice heavy with sympathy. "Your father and I want you to know we're here for you. Whatever you need. We love you." "Mom, what are you talking about?" "You'll understand soon enough. Just know that this isn't your fault. None of it is your fault." She was crying when she hung up. I stood in my kitchen, surrounded by the life Jessica and I had built together. The stupid owl-shaped salt shakers she'd insisted on buying. The photo of us at Yellowstone on our 5th anniversary. The coffee mug I'd given her last Christmas that said "World's Okayest Wife" because she'd laughed when she saw it in the store. Everything looked the same, but I knew with absolute certainty that by noon, everything would be different. At 11:45, I picked up my phone. My hands were shaking. I'd made it almost 6 hours. That was close enough. The phone took forever to power on. When it finally did, it immediately started buzzing, and buzzing, and buzzing. Texts, emails, Facebook notifications, Instagram DMs, missed calls. The numbers kept climbing. 147 messages, all arriving at once like they'd been held back by some invisible dam that had just broken. Before I tell you what those messages said, I want you to do something for me. If this story is already getting under your skin, if you're sitting there wondering what could possibly be in those messages, hit that subscribe button. Because what happens next is going to change everything I thought I knew about my marriage, my wife, and myself. Drop a comment telling me what you think Jessica did. And if you've ever had that moment where your whole world shifted in an instant, hit that like button. Let's get into what destroyed my life in under 200 characters. The first message was from my sister Kate. I opened it because Kate never texted me unless it was important. The preview showed just 4 words. "I'm so sorry, Brandon." I clicked on it. What I saw made my knees buckle. It was a screenshot. A Facebook post, written by my wife. Posted at 5 a.m. that morning. Exactly when she'd been waking me up, begging me not to look at my phone. The post was long, detailed, and it was addressed to everyone we knew. "I need to come clean about something," it started. "For the past year and a half, I've been having an affair with my husband's best friend, Tyler Brennan. It started at Brandon's birthday party in March of last year. We were drunk. I was angry because Brandon had forgotten our anniversary the week before. Tyler and I ended up in the guest bedroom while Brandon was downstairs cutting his cake. It was supposed to be one time, a mistake, but it wasn't. We kept seeing each other. Once a week at first, then twice a week, then almost every day. When Brandon thought I was at book club, I was with Tyler. When I said I was working late, I was with Tyler. When I told Brandon I was visiting my sick aunt in Portland for 4 days last October, Tyler and I were in a cabin in Big Sur. I had to stop reading, had to breathe. But I couldn't stop. The post kept going. Tyler and I fell in love. Real love. The kind I didn't know existed. 3 months ago, we started planning to leave our spouses. Tyler was going to tell his wife Amanda. I was going to tell Brandon. We were going to move to Seattle together and start over. But last week, everything fell apart. Tyler told Amanda everything. She kicked him out immediately. He moved in with his parents. And then yesterday, Amanda called me. She told me she's pregnant. 3 months pregnant. Tyler got her pregnant right around the time we started planning our future together. He swears he didn't know. Swears it was a last desperate attempt to save his marriage before he left her. But it doesn't matter. Tyler chose to stay with Amanda and the baby. He told me last night that he can't leave his child, that he has to try to make his marriage work. So I'm left here, alone, having betrayed the best man I've ever known for nothing. Brandon, if you're reading this, I'm so sorry. I know sorry doesn't mean anything. I know I've destroyed us. But I couldn't keep lying. I couldn't wake up next to you every day knowing what I'd done. You deserve better than me. You always have. To everyone else, I'm posting this publicly because I don't want Brandon to have to explain what happened. I don't want him to carry the shame of my choices. This is my confession. My responsibility. He did nothing wrong. Nothing. He was a perfect husband, and I threw it away for something that was never real. The post had been up for 6 hours, 347 comments, 189 shares. Everyone we knew had seen it. I scrolled through the messages. My sister. "I'm so sorry, Brandon." My brother. "I'm going to kill Tyler." My mother. "Come home, sweetheart." Tyler's wife, Amanda. "I didn't know until yesterday. I swear I didn't know. I'm so sorry, Brandon." My boss. "Take all the time you need." My coworkers. "We're here for you." College friends I hadn't spoken to in years. What a bitch. Distant relatives. "Praying for you." Neighbors. "Let us know if you need anything." The entire universe knew my wife had been cheating on me. The entire universe knew I was the fool who hadn't noticed. The entire universe knew that while I was working 60-hour weeks to save for the house Jessica wanted, she was sleeping with my best friend. I called Tyler. It went straight to voicemail. I called again. Same thing. I called Jessica. She answered on the first ring. "Brandon?" Her voice was thick with tears. "Did you read it?" "Every word." Silence. Then, "I meant what I said. You didn't deserve this." "Why did you post it publicly?" I asked, surprised by how calm my voice sounded. "Why not just tell me? Why humiliate me in front of everyone we know?" "Because I didn't want you to have to explain," she said. "I didn't want people asking you questions or making you relive it over and over. I wanted them to know it was all me, that you were innocent." "How considerate." The sarcasm came out sharp. "Where are you?" "My sister's place." Her sister Emily lived 2 hours away. "I'm not coming back, Brandon. I can't face you. Can't face what I've done to you. We need to talk. We need to figure out logistics. The house, the bank accounts, all of it." "I know, but not today. Please, let's both just process this for a few days, and then we'll deal with everything." I should have argued, should have demanded she come home so we could talk face to face, but I was still in shock, still trying to understand how my wife of 9 years had been living a completely different life. "Okay," I said. "A few days." "Brandon?" Her voice broke. "I really am sorry. I know you don't believe me, but I am." I hung up, sat on my couch, our couch, the one we'd picked out together at IKEA, arguing about whether gray or blue would match the curtains better. We'd compromised on gray with blue pillows. That's what our whole marriage had been. Compromise. Communication. Partnership. Or so I thought. My phone buzzed again. Another message. This one from Tyler's wife, Amanda. "Brandon, can we meet? I need to talk to you. There's something you need to know." I drove to the coffee shop Amanda suggested. She was already there, sitting in a corner booth, her hand resting on a belly that was just starting to show. She looked terrible. Eyes swollen, face pale, hair pulled back in a messy ponytail. "Thanks for coming," she said as I sat down. "I wasn't sure you would." "I didn't have anything better to do," I said. "My schedule just freed up significantly." She smiled slightly. "Tyler's at his parents' house. He's a mess. Hasn't stopped crying since he told me everything." "Good." The word came out harder than I intended. Amanda nodded. "I get it. I hate him too right now, but there's something I need to tell you. Something Jessica didn't put in that Facebook post." I waited. "Tyler told me everything last night, and I mean everything. Brandon, the affair started at your birthday party, that part's true. But it didn't continue because they fell in love. It continued because Jessica got pregnant." The coffee shop went quiet. Or maybe it was just my hearing. "What?" "Jessica got pregnant in April, right after your birthday. Tyler said she was going to get an abortion, but he talked her out of it. Convinced her they could make it work. That they'd leave their spouses and raise the baby together." I couldn't breathe. Tyler was obsessed with the idea of them having a family. But then in July, Jessica miscarried. She was about 14 weeks along. She told Tyler she'd had a stomach flu and you never knew anything was wrong. Amanda was crying now. After the miscarriage, Tyler wanted to end things. Said it was a sign they were making a mistake. But Jessica begged him to keep trying. Said she loved him, that they could try again. "The visit to Portland," I said numbly. "To see her sick aunt." She was with Tyler. They spent 4 days trying to figure out their future. That's when they decided to leave us. I felt like I was drowning. Why didn't she put this in the post? I don't know. Maybe she was trying to protect Tyler. Or maybe she was ashamed. But Brandon, there's more. I couldn't imagine what more there could be. When I told Tyler I was pregnant, he panicked. He wanted me to get an abortion. Said he couldn't trap himself in a marriage he didn't want. But I refused. This is my baby. I want this baby. Amanda's hand moved to her stomach protectively. So Tyler made a choice. He told Jessica it was over, and Jessica completely fell apart. She called me yesterday morning before she posted anything, asked if we could meet. She did? She wanted to convince me to let Tyler go, said they were meant to be together, that I was being selfish keeping him in a loveless marriage. Amanda wiped her eyes. I told her to go to hell. Told her if she really loved him, she'd let him be a father to his child. And that's when she changed. Changed how? She got cold, calculating. Said if she couldn't have Tyler, she'd make sure everyone knew what kind of person he was. what kind of people both of them were. She said she was going to blow up both of their lives, and mine too, just so no one got a happy ending. I stared at Amanda. The Facebook post. She didn't confess because she felt guilty, Brandon. She confessed because she wanted revenge. She wanted to destroy Tyler's reputation, destroy any chance he had of keeping his job or his friends. And she wanted to hurt me by making sure everyone knew my husband was a cheater. Amanda leaned forward. But here's the thing. I don't think she expected you to be collateral damage. I think she thought people would sympathize with her, see her as the heartbroken other woman who got abandoned. Instead, everyone's rallying around you and calling her trash. And now she's panicking because she realizes she destroyed her own life too. I sat there processing this new information. My wife hadn't confessed out of guilt or integrity. She'd confessed out of spite. Pure, petty spite. There's one more thing, Amanda said quietly. Tyler told me that about a month ago, Jessica asked him to help her access your email. Said she thought you might be cheating on her and she wanted proof. I've never cheated. I know. Tyler knows. But she convinced him to help her anyway, and when she got into your email she found something she wasn't expecting. I felt cold. What? The emails from the adoption agency. Everything stopped. The emails from the adoption agency. The ones I'd been carefully hiding for 6 months. The ones about the process Jessica and I had started 2 years ago. The ones that said we'd finally been matched with a birth mother. That in 4 months we were going to be parents. Jessica and I had been trying to get pregnant for 5 years before we'd finally accepted it wasn't going to happen. We'd started the adoption process, filled out 1 million forms, gone through interviews and home studies and background checks. And then, right around the time Jessica apparently started sleeping with Tyler, we'd been put on a waiting list. I'd gotten the email 3 weeks ago. We'd been matched. A 19-year-old girl in Nevada was 7 months pregnant and had chosen us to raise her baby. I'd been waiting for the right moment to tell Jessica. Waiting until after her big work presentation. Waiting until the stress of her mother's surgery was over. Waiting for the perfect moment to share the perfect news. I'd been planning to tell her this weekend. Tyler said Jessica read those emails and completely broke down, Amanda said, because she realized that while she was destroying your marriage, you were building your future together. You were giving her the one thing she'd always wanted, the thing Tyler had promised her and then taken away when his baby was mine instead of hers. I left the coffee shop in a daze, drove home on autopilot, walked into the house where everything looked the same, but nothing was. My phone kept buzzing. Messages of support, messages of anger on my behalf, messages from people I'd gone to high school with wanting to know if the post was real. I ignored all of them, went to my office, pulled up the emails from the agency, read through them again. We'd been matched with a birth mother named Sophie. She was due in 12 weeks. She'd chosen us because in our profile we'd talked about family Sunday dinners and teaching our future child to fish and building a treehouse in the backyard. She'd written us a letter saying we seemed like exactly the kind of parents she wanted for her baby. And in 4 days we had a scheduled video call to meet her for the first time. Except now there was no we. Now there was just me. I called the adoption agency, explained the situation to our caseworker, a kind woman named Patricia who'd been with us through the whole process. "Oh, Brandon," she said, her voice heavy with sympathy. "I'm so sorry. Does this mean you're withdrawing from the match?" "No," I said, surprising myself. "I want to continue, if that's possible. Can I adopt as a single parent?" "Yes, but it complicates things. The home study will need to be updated. We'll need additional references. And you'll have to be honest with Sophie about the change in circumstances. She chose a 2-parent family." "I understand, but I want to try. This baby was supposed to be mine too. I don't want to lose that." Patricia was quiet for a moment. "Let me make some calls. I'll get back to you tomorrow. But Brandon, I have to ask, are you sure you're in the right headspace for this? You just found out about your wife's affair. This is a huge life change on top of trauma." "I'm sure," I said, and I was. Maybe it was shock, maybe it was denial, but in that moment, thinking about the baby that was supposed to have been ours, I felt something I hadn't felt all day. Purpose. I spent the rest of the day going through old photos. Jessica and me at our wedding. Both of us so young and stupid and convinced we'd figured out forever. Jessica and me at the Grand Canyon, her hair whipping in the wind. Jessica and me at her father's funeral, me holding her while she sobbed. Jessica and me painting the nursery we'd prepared 3 years ago before we'd accepted that pregnancy wasn't happening. We'd painted it yellow because it was supposed to be for any baby, boy, or girl. Then we'd closed the door and hadn't opened it since. 9 years of memories. 9 years of building a life together. And she'd thrown it away. For what? For a man who'd gotten his wife pregnant while planning to leave her? For a future that was never going to happen. For revenge when that future fell apart. I should have been angry, should have been raging and breaking things and calling Tyler to scream at him, but all I felt was hollow. My brother Aaron showed up at 6 with pizza and beer. "Figured you wouldn't have eaten," he said, pushing past me into the kitchen. We ate in silence for a while. Then Aaron said, "Melissa wants you to stay with us. Says you shouldn't be alone in this house." "I'm okay." "No, you're not. No one would be okay." I set down my pizza. "Aaron, did you know?" "About the affair?" He shook his head. "I swear to God, Brandon, I had no idea. If I'd known, I would have told you immediately." "What about Tyler? You guys were friends too." "Not anymore," Aaron said darkly. "I saw him at the gym about a month ago. He was acting weird, guilty. But I just thought he was stressed about work. Never imagined." He trailed off. "Amanda told me some things," I said, and I told him. About the pregnancy, the miscarriage, the emails about the adoption, the real reason for the Facebook confession. When I finished, Aaron was white with rage. "She was pregnant and she didn't tell you?" "She was planning to leave me for him. Why would she tell me?" "Because it might have been yours." The thought had occurred to me. Jessica and I had still been having sex in April. Not as often as we used to, but we hadn't stopped being intimate. That baby could have been mine, and she'd been planning to pass it off as Tyler's. Or maybe she'd known it was his. Maybe they hadn't been careful. Maybe that's why she'd been so sure. "I'm going to press charges," Aaron said suddenly. "For what?" "Alienation of affection. It's still legal in like 6 states. We'll find something. Tyler destroyed your marriage. He should pay." "I don't want to destroy Tyler's life," I said. "I want to move forward with mine." Aaron stared at me. "How are you so calm about this?" "I'm not calm. I'm in shock. There's a difference." My phone buzzed. A text from Jessica. "The adoption. Brandon, I'm so sorry. I saw the emails. I didn't know. We can still do it together. We can work through this. For the baby." I showed Aaron the text. He read it and threw my phone across the room. It hit the wall and clattered to the floor. "She doesn't get to do that," Aaron said, his voice shaking. "She doesn't get to cheat on you for a year and a half, get pregnant by another man, plan to leave you, and then come crawling back because she wants to play mommy." "I know. So why aren't you angry?" "I am angry," I said quietly. "I'm furious. But what good does it do? She's already destroyed everything. Getting angry won't bring any of it back." The next few days passed in a blur. I took time off work, stayed at Aaron's house because being in my own home felt like drowning, talked to lawyers about divorce proceedings, updated my will, changed all my passwords, did all the practical things you're supposed to do when your life implodes. Patricia from the adoption agency called on the 3rd day. "Brandon, I spoke with Sophie. I told her about your situation. She wants to talk to you." "She does?" "She's struggling with this. She chose you and Jessica because she wanted her baby to have 2 parents, a mother and father, but she also feels a connection to you specifically. She's read all your letters. She wants to meet with you and then decide." We set up a video call for that evening. I drove back to my house, to the office where I'd spent so many nights working on the adoption profile. Sophie appeared on screen right at 7. She was young, younger than she'd looked in her photos. Long brown hair, scared eyes, a belly she kept touching nervously. "Hi," she said softly. "Hi, Sophie. Thank you for agreeing to talk to me." We were both quiet for a moment. Then Sophie said, "Your wife cheated on you." "Ex-wife. Well, soon-to-be ex-wife. But yes." "Patricia sent me the Facebook post. Everyone's talking about it. I'm sorry that happened to you." "Thank you." Sophie bit her lip. "I chose you guys because you seemed happy. because you seemed like you had your lives together, like you knew how to love each other. I thought we did too. But now there's just you, and I don't know if that's what I want for my baby." I nodded. "I understand, and I'll respect whatever decision you make. But Sophie, can I tell you something?" "Okay." "When Jessica and I decided to adopt, it wasn't because we couldn't have kids. Well, that was part of it. But mostly it was because we both knew there were children who needed families, who needed love and stability and someone to believe in them. That's what I still want to give. Nothing about that has changed." "But you're alone now," Sophie said. "Your life just fell apart. How are you going to take care of a baby?" "Honestly, I don't know. I've never done this before. But I have family who will help. I have resources. I have love to give. And I promise you, Sophie, if you choose to let me adopt your baby, that child will never wonder if they were wanted. They will never question whether they were loved, because they will be wanted and loved more than anything in this world." Sophie was crying now. "I'm scared." "Me too," I admitted. "Having a baby is terrifying. Giving up a baby is probably even more terrifying. But we're both doing what we think is right. And maybe that's enough." She wiped her eyes. "Can I think about it?" "Of course. Take as much time as you need. I'll call Patricia in a few days. Tell her my decision." After she hung up, I sat in my office for a long time. I'd been honest with Sophie. I was terrified. The idea of raising a child alone, of being a single father in a town where everyone knew my wife had publicly humiliated me, was overwhelming. But it was also the only thing that felt right. The only thing that felt like moving forward instead of drowning in the past. Jessica called that night. "Did you talk to Sophie?" "How do you know about that?" "Patricia called me, said she needed to close out my file since I won't be participating in the adoption. Brandon, please don't do this." "Don't do what?" "Don't take this baby, not out of spite, not to punish me." I laughed, but it wasn't a happy sound. "You think I'm doing this to punish you?" "Jessica, I'm doing this because I want to be a father. Something I've wanted since before you and I even got married. But you can't do it alone. You need me." "I needed you." Past tense. I needed my wife to be honest with me. I needed my partner to actually be my partner. But you were too busy building a life with someone else. "Brandon, I made a mistake. But we can fix this. We can go to counseling, work through it, raise this baby together like we planned." "No," I said firmly. "We can't. Because I don't trust you. I don't even like you right now. And I'm not going to raise a child in a home where I'm constantly wondering if you're being faithful or if you're planning your next exit strategy." "So you're just going to erase me? Act like our marriage never happened?" "Our marriage ended the day you slept with Tyler. I just didn't know it until now." She was quiet for a long moment. Then, in a small voice, "I do love you, you know. I never stopped loving you." "Love isn't enough, Jessica. Not when it's built on lies." I hung up before she could respond. Sophie called Patricia 4 days later. Patricia called me immediately after. "Brandon, Sophie wants to move forward with you as a single-parent adoption." I sat down hard on my couch. "She does?" "She said something you told her really resonated, about the baby being wanted and loved. She said she could hear how much you meant it, how genuine you were." "When do we start?" "There's a lot of paperwork. We need to update your home study. You'll need to take parenting classes. But if everything goes smoothly, you should have your baby in about 8 weeks. 8 weeks? In 8 weeks, I'd be a father. A single father. A divorced single father whose life had been publicly destroyed. But a father nonetheless. I started preparing immediately. Opened the yellow nursery and started really setting it up this time. Bought a crib and a changing table and more baby clothes than any infant could possibly need. Read every parenting book I could find. Took classes on infant CPR and sleep training and postpartum care. My family rallied around me. My mother organized a baby shower. Erin started building a playground in my backyard. Kate assembled a network of babysitters and helpers. Even my father, who'd never been particularly emotional, teared up when I told him he was going to be a grandfather. Tyler tried to reach out once. Sent a long email apologizing, explaining, justifying. I deleted it without reading past the first paragraph. I didn't care about his reasons anymore. Didn't care about his guilt or his explanations. He'd made his choices and I'd made mine. Jessica tried too. Showed up at my house one evening when I was assembling the crib. "Brandon, please, can we just talk?" "We've talked. There's nothing left to say." "There's everything to say. I owe you explanations. I owe you honesty. You owed me honesty a year and a half ago. Now all you owe me is space. I'm your wife." "Not anymore. The divorce papers were filed yesterday. You'll be served next week." She started crying. "I know I don't deserve forgiveness. I know I don't deserve another chance. But Brandon, we built a life together. Doesn't that mean anything?" "It meant everything," I said, "until you decided it meant nothing." I closed the door in her face, finished building the crib, put tiny sheets on the tiny mattress, stood in the nursery and tried to imagine what it would be like in a few weeks when there'd be a real baby sleeping there. My baby. The adoption was finalized 3 weeks early. Sophie went into labor unexpectedly at 37 weeks. I got the call at 2 in the morning. Drove 4 hours to the hospital in Nevada. Waited in a room next to the delivery room while Sophie brought my daughter into the world. Because it was a girl. A 7-pound, 2-ounce girl with dark hair and tiny fingers, and lungs that worked perfectly. The nurse brought her to me wrapped in a pink blanket. "Would you like to hold your daughter?" I took her carefully, terrified I'd drop her, or hold her wrong, or somehow mess up in the first 30 seconds of being a father. But she settled into my arms, like she belonged there. Opened her eyes and looked at me with an expression that seemed to say, "Oh, there you are. I've been waiting for you." "Hi," I whispered. "Hi, baby girl. I'm your dad. We're going to figure this out together, okay?" She yawned. I took that as agreement. Sophie wanted to meet her before I took her home, wanted to say goodbye. I brought the baby into her room. Sophie was pale and exhausted, but she smiled when she saw us. "She's beautiful," Sophie said, touching the baby's tiny hand. "Thank you," I said, "for trusting me with her, for giving me this chance." "Take good care of her," Sophie said. "Tell her about me someday. Tell her I loved her enough to give her to someone who could give her everything I couldn't." "I will. I promise." I drove home with my daughter sleeping in the car seat in the back. Kept checking the rearview mirror to make sure she was real. That this was really happening. When I pulled into my driveway, my entire family was waiting. My mother, my father, Aaron and Melissa, Kate and her husband. They decorated the porch with pink balloons and a banner that said, "Welcome home." "Everyone," I said, carefully lifting the car seat out. "This is my daughter. This is Emma Grace." Because that's what I'd decided to name her. Emma for new beginnings, Grace for the mercy of second chances. They all crowded around, cooing and taking pictures and arguing over who got to hold her first. My mother won. She took Emma and tears immediately started streaming down her face. "Oh, Brandon, she's perfect." "I know," I said. And she was. Perfect and tiny and mine. That night, after everyone left and it was just Emma and me, I sat in the nursery rocking her while she slept, watched her breathe, counted her fingers, marveled at the fact that this small person was going to be my whole world now. My phone buzzed. A text from Jessica. "I heard about the baby. Congratulations. I hope she brings you all the happiness I couldn't." I didn't respond, just turned off my phone and looked down at Emma. "You want to know something?" I whispered to my sleeping daughter. "Your life started the same way mine ended, with messages I didn't want to see, with a truth I wasn't ready for. But here's what I learned, Emma. Sometimes the worst thing that can happen to you is actually the catalyst for the best thing. If your mom hadn't confessed, if she hadn't destroyed our marriage, I'd still be living a lie, still be married to someone who didn't really love me, still be planning a future that was never real. But now I have you, and you're the realest thing I've ever had." Emma stirred in my arms, made a small sound, settled back into sleep. "We're going to be okay," I told her. "I don't know how yet. I don't have all the answers. But we're going to figure it out together. And someday, when you're old enough to understand, I'll tell you this whole story. I'll tell you about the messages that changed my life, about the confession that destroyed my marriage, about the adoption that saved me. And I'll tell you that you were worth every single second of pain it took to get to you." 3 months later, I was a completely different person. Or maybe I was finally the person I was supposed to be all along. Emma was sleeping through the night mostly. I'd figured out the basics of diaper changes and bottle feeding and the mysterious reasons babies cry at 3 a.m. My family had been invaluable. My mother came over 3 times a week to help. Aaron had installed a baby monitor that connected to my phone. Kate had organized a meal train that kept my fridge stocked. Being a single father was harder than I'd imagined, but it was also better. Every smile, every milestone, every tiny hand grabbing my finger was mine. No shared custody, no coordinating schedules, just me and Emma building our life together. The divorce was finalized on a Tuesday. Jessica didn't contest anything, didn't ask for alimony or fight over assets. She just signed the papers and disappeared. Moved to Seattle, ironically, the city she'd planned to run away to with Tyler. I heard through mutual friends that she was working at a tech company, starting over, trying to rebuild her life. I didn't wish her harm, didn't wish her happiness either. I just didn't think about her at all anymore. Tyler and Amanda stayed together, had their baby, a boy. Tyler lost most of his friends, including Aaron. Lost his job when word spread about the affair. Last I heard, they'd moved to Amanda's hometown in Minnesota, trying to start fresh where no one knew their story. I ran into Amanda once at the grocery store. Emma was with me in the cart, babbling at strangers like she always did. Amanda had her son strapped to her chest. We stood in the cereal aisle, 2 people whose lives had been blown apart by the same betrayal, now both holding the pieces that had somehow made us whole again. "She's beautiful," Amanda said, looking at Emma. "So is he," I replied, gesturing to her son. "Are you happy?" Amanda asked. It was a strange question, but I understood what she meant. After everything we'd both been through, was happiness even possible? "Yeah," I said, surprising myself with the honesty of it. "I actually am. Are you?" She thought about it. "Getting there. Some days are harder than others, but we're making it work." "That's all any of us can do," she nodded. "For what it's worth, Brandon, I'm sorry Jessica did what she did. She hurt a lot of people, but I'm glad you got Emma out of it." "Me too." We said goodbye and went our separate ways. 2 survivors of the same wreckage, floating in different directions but somehow still afloat. That evening, I was giving Emma her bath when my phone rang. Unknown number. I almost didn't answer, but something made me pick it up. "Hello? Brandon?" A woman's voice, hesitant, familiar. "This is Sophie." "Sophie, hi. Is everything okay?" "Yeah, everything's fine. I just wanted to call and see how Emma was doing, if..." "That's okay. I've been thinking about her a lot." "She's doing great," I said, watching Emma splash in her baby tub. "She's healthy and happy and currently trying to eat bath water." Sophie laughed. "Can you send me some pictures sometime? Not to post or anything. Just for me, so I can see her growing up." "Of course. I'll send some tonight." "Thank you, Brandon. And thank you for keeping your promise. For loving her the way you said you would." After I hung up, I took photos of Emma. Her wet hair sticking up in funny directions, her toothless smile, her tiny fingers gripping the edge of the tub. I sent them to Sophie with a message. "Emma is loved more than words can say. Thank you for trusting me with her." She responded immediately. "Thank you for being exactly who you said you'd be." I put Emma to bed that night and stood in her doorway watching her sleep. Thought about the morning 9 months ago when Jessica had woken me up with terror in her eyes. Thought about the 147 messages that had destroyed my marriage. Thought about all the pain and betrayal and public humiliation, and I realized something. I wouldn't change any of it, not a single second. Because changing any of it would mean not having Emma, would mean still being married to someone who didn't love me the way I deserved, would mean living a comfortable lie instead of an uncomfortable truth. The messages that broke me had also freed me. The confession that humiliated me had also saved me. The ending I'd feared had been the beginning I'd needed. My phone buzzed one more time, a text from Jessica, the first one in months. "I saw your picture on Facebook. Emma is beautiful. You look happy. I'm glad. You deserve to be happy, Brandon. I'm sorry I couldn't be the one to make you that way, but I'm glad you found it anyway." I stared at the message for a long time. Part of me wanted to respond, to tell her I forgave her, or that I didn't, to explain everything that had happened since that morning, to make her understand what she'd thrown away. But in the end, I just deleted the message. Because Jessica didn't get to be part of this story anymore. This was my story now. Mine and Emma's. And it was just beginning. I walked back into Emma's room, picked her up carefully, even though I knew I shouldn't disturb sleeping babies. But I needed to hold her, needed to remember why all of this had been worth it. "Hey, baby girl," I whispered. "Want to know something? Someday you're going to ask me about your mom. Not Sophie, she's your birth mother and she's amazing. But you'll ask about the woman I was married to before you came. The woman who could have been your mother but chose something else instead. And when you ask, I'm going to tell you the truth. I'm going to tell you that people make mistakes, that love doesn't always work out the way we plan, that sometimes the people we trust most are the ones who hurt us deepest. But I'm also going to tell you that from that hurt came you. And you are the best thing that ever happened to me. You are proof that endings can become beginnings, that loss can become gain, that the worst day of your life can lead to the best." Emma stirred in my arms but didn't wake, just shifted closer to my chest, her tiny hand curling against my shirt. "Your life started with messages I didn't want to see," I continued, "with words that shattered my world. But those messages led me to you, and I would read them 1,000 times over if it meant getting to hold you right now. So thank you, Emma. Thank you for making sense of the chaos. Thank you for being the reason I get up every morning. Thank you for being mine." I sat there in the rocking chair for another hour, just holding my daughter, thinking about how 9 months ago I'd been a different person, a husband who thought he understood his marriage, a man who believed he knew what his future looked like, how wrong I'd been, how beautifully, painfully wrong. But I was right about one thing. That morning when Jessica woke me up and told me I'd hate her by noon, I'd thought she was destroying my life. Turns out she was just making room for the life I was supposed to have all along. If you've made it this far in the story, I want to thank you for listening, for sitting with me through the pain and the betrayal and the unexpected joy that came after. Drop a comment below and tell me, have you ever had a moment where the worst thing that happened to you led to the best thing? Have you ever experienced betrayal that actually set you free? And if you're going through something similar right now, if you're reading messages you don't want to see or facing truths you're not ready for, I want you to know something. It gets better. Not immediately, not easily, but it gets better. The pain you're feeling right now is real. The betrayal is valid. The anger and hurt and confusion are all justified. But they won't last forever. One day you'll wake up and realize you're thinking about the future instead of the past. You'll hold something precious in your arms, whether it's a child or a dream or just yourself, finally whole again, and you'll understand that you had to break before you could rebuild into something stronger. So, to everyone who's ever been woken up with bad news, who's ever read messages that changed their life, who's ever had to watch their world fall apart before it could come together, this story is for you. You're going to be okay. Maybe not today, maybe not tomorrow, but eventually, you're going to look back at the worst day of your life and realize it was actually the beginning of your best life. Hit that subscribe button if this story resonated with you. Like this video if you believe that endings can be beginnings. And comment below with your own story of survival and unexpected joy. Because we're all just trying to make sense of the chaos. And sometimes sharing our stories is the only way to remember we're not alone. Thank you for being here. Thank you for listening. And remember, the messages that break you might just be the ones that make you.